Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of TIG Talks. So we're doing something a little bit different today, and hopefully it's going to be the first of many, but we're calling this a pitch sprint. And so what we've done is we've invited four founders to come here and pitch to us live. They'll have 5 minutes to give their pitch and then 5 minutes for Q&A. And what we've agreed is on the same three questions so that we can compare at the end. And then at the end, my two panelists, who I'll introduce here in just a second, and we'll talk about what we saw in each of the pitches, what we liked, what we felt was answered well, what we felt was left unanswered, all in the hopes of providing everyone listening some learning, some insight, some feedback as to what happens after you walk out of the room from a pitch. So joining me today, I've got one stellar panelist and one person that I just had to bring in because every once in a while he just shows up and needs to be around. So I'll start with our stellar panelist, Aditi Dash with Circle Up, and let you introduce yourself and share with everybody a little bit about you and a little bit about Circle Up.
Cool. Thank you, Elliot. I appreciate it. And you're way too nice to me, probably because you don't know me that well yet. But I'm one of the investors at Circle Up. Circle Up is a growth equity fund here in San Francisco. We are investing in food, beverage, beauty, personal care, and anything consumer. Our investments are typically in companies that are $1 million in sales, and we invest somewhere between 1 to 5. And about me, I have been at Circle Up for 2 years. Before Circle Up, I was at a coffee company called La Colombe Coffee, where I was overseeing new products and innovation. And pre-La Colombe, I was at 2 other funds and another startup called Blue Apron, which is in the meal kit delivery space. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm excited to hear the pitches. Thanks, Elliot.
Glad to have you. Thanks for doing this. I'm going to let Chuck introduce himself. My brother from another mother.
I'm Chuck, as Elliot said, Chuck Cotter. I'm with Holland and Hart, run our food bev CPG practice. We represent over 100 CPG brands, most of which are food and beverage, and a number of funds in the space, and close somewhere between 60 and 80 venture and M&A deals in the space each year. So we get a good sampling of investor perspective and brand perspective and see it from both sides of a lot of these deals. And as a result, also see a ton of pitches.
Awesome. And thanks in all seriousness for doing this with me. And I think with, you see both sides. And so your insight is going to be valuable. And as always, you've strategically positioned your arms to look buff. And I always admire that in these episodes. So, all right. I'm going to invite our first brand to pitch. Jared, if you want to come on in and introduce yourself and Lillaby, and you tell me when you're ready, and I will get the clock started. So.
All right. All right. Let's do this. It's going to be my first YouTube, Elliot. I'm very excited.
All right. And your first podcast probably too. Nice. You're going old school because the slides weren't working.
I brought product samples. All right. Let's do it.
All right. You're on the clock.
Thank you. Very happy, a little nervy, but super grateful. So my time's limited. Let's get started. The first question I'd like to try to answer for y'all is, why Lillaby? Why is this a thing? And the short answer is a short story. The world's going to spend $2 billion on Oreos this year. $2 billion. And while Oreos are delicious, and no shade to anybody watching from Mondelez, I think the $2 billion would be better spent on Lillaby products instead. Because Lillaby products are different and they're better. Because we figured out taste with benefits. We've nailed healthful indulgence. The functional benefit of an RX bar with the emotional fulfillment of that Oreo cookie or Nilla wafer or Thin Mint. Our brand's grain-free, dairy-free, paleo-friendly snacks combine organic and superfood ingredients like almonds, sweet potatoes, hemp seeds, avocado oil, and cacao with natural sweeteners to make treats that are delicious and health conscious. And around all this, we developed a capital-efficient growth growth hypothesis. Here it is. There's a long-term opportunity being created in this post-pandemic world. The opportunity results from the lasting changes in how people will discover and purchase their food. And there's white space opening for a new way to take an impulse CPG brand to market. And the white space is going to favor companies who grow in e-com and alternative channels with capital efficiency. I mean, I personally think that the days could be numbered for emerging brands whose plan is to burn, raising and spending vast sums of capital to fund discovery and growth in the retail channel. In fact, one of the reasons I'm probably most excited to be here is that I'm kind of evangelical now in sharing my belief of how the retail channel is not and should not be for any small brand a path to growth, because our industry is littered with the wreckage of too many good products, great people, and precious capital that's been consumed in chasing a false opportunity and honestly a false choice. To avoid falling in the footsteps of those who've fallen before, I think there's a new path to successfully go to market. So for us, it's about offering that timely, tasty product that's on trend with diets and now more than ever with health, having a lean, nimble organization with low overhead and minimized fixed costs, and then riding that wave of e-com growth to become ubiquitous online and activating our consumers on their screens. We have a curated and disciplined approach to retail too. We don't chase doors, and we only sell where we can make money. So for us, that means Whole Foods, Thrive, and a few other carefully selected retailers. We've got an insistent focus on unit economics and great gross margin, and we keep that commitment to capital efficiency throughout. And the time to execute that strategy, it's now. Because prior to all this pandemic happening, e-com sales represented somewhere between 4 to 6% total grocery sales. And in March and April, estimates I'm seeing have that at almost 40%. And the expectation is they're going to permanently settle somewhere between 15 to 20%. So I often use a mental exercise in my life that I like to call, what would I have to believe? As in, what would I have to believe in order for something to be true? And I think that 15 to 20% is probably going to be true. And therefore, what I've got to believe is the collective experience of living through this is going to permanently alter the purchasing behavior of consumers. And that's going to happen because the in-store grocery experience is being remade from one of joyful discovery to one of joyless function, and even one of fear for many folks. So the opportunity is in digital, and e-com is our path forward. I think it's a strong case backed up with data, great product, and even prior success in our channel. I hope that y'all believe in our products, our nimble, capital efficient, e-com focused strategy are the right path forward in an uncertain world. Be very interested in your feedback too, and what you think we should be offering, maybe beyond the usual convertible note terms. And I'm curious if you believe in our growth hypothesis and its focus on capital efficiency in the digital channel. And finally, the end of my almost couple minutes, what would it take for each of you to write a check today? Thanks so much for your time. I look forward to your feedback too.
Nice job. Nice job too, having to scramble with slide malfunction. So I'm going to turn it to Aditi's going to ask our first question.
The first question is, what have you done during this period of uncertainty to make your business more nimble, more capital efficient, and more resilient?
So I think, you know what, maybe it's maybe funny, maybe not funny, but apparently my skill set must be some sort of form of clairvoyance, because I've already made the choice last winter to do all of those things pre-COVID. And I did it because I felt like the writing was on the wall for us as well as for the industry. But specifically to answer your question, the changes that we made were, I got us out of any retail distribution that was unprofitable. So no good money after bad, pounded down these channels, trying to drive sales in the most expensive channel. We stayed only in Whole Foods and Thrive and a few other carefully curated retail. We cut all of our SG&A and we moved to a 100% provider model, gives us a lot of flexibility and really minimizes our fixed costs. And we shifted all of our innovation to online, so there's no slotting, trade, or free fill. And finally, I renegotiated our manufacturing contracts and I brought our gross margin to almost 50% now. So we are well positioned to take advantage of the opportunities that are being created right now because of those capital efficient and resilience changes that we made.
Great. Chuck, your question.
Sure. So even pre-COVID, this was a question that existed for brands who wanted to be primarily digital, and therefore wouldn't necessarily be demoing a lot of product at retail. But it's an even bigger issue in the world of COVID. Where and how do you plan to drive discovery and trial of your product?
We plan to do it on screens and not in a store, because our customer is everywhere. We don't just have to meet them. And so we focus on product discovery primarily on Amazon, and then backing that up with a modest social media budget. It's kind of in line with our capital efficient plan. So we identified and we engaged with kind of a core group of e-com experts to help us refine and then implement a winning digital strategy that, you know, we can really execute in its full format if we're able to raise the growth capital that we need to fund it. And since you can't taste the product, I think a lot of that is just placing it where similar products are being purchased, making sure that the social media we do, the social media engagement that we do is really resonant with our consumer. And so that's driving home this healthful indulgence and nutritive aspect of what we offer, and how it's going to fulfill their that emotional need for a great snack, but also that functional need for nutrient-dense foods.
Last question for you. I mean, you asked the question to us and to the investors listening today, what it's going to take for them to write you a check. I want to turn that around and ask you, what support are you expecting or wanting from that investor beyond just the money, just beyond the capital?
Well, I think it depends on what kind of investor they are. Are they someone who's willing and wanting to put sweat and reputation behind Lillaby and not just a wire transfer? And if they are looking to be active and additive, I would want to be sure that that expertise was both recent and stage compatible with where we are today. And since we already have really strong kind of horizontal support in place with the people that we work with, we're really looking, I think, for three things that besides capital. And the first is vertical expertise. And so that's the information and relationships and marketplace savvy and the media networks that will offer Lillaby the chance to move faster with greater accuracy in testing our growth hypothesis. I would also, I don't know if people mention this a lot, but it's important to me, and that's personal support. I'm not looking for a new best friend, but I am looking for someone that I can trust and feel like I can have a real conversation with. And so that means someone I can bring a question to and not have that very act of having a question create chaos. So that's somebody interested in the growth of the company and the growth of their investment and in my growth as well. And I think the third and most important might be kind of venture advocacy. So that's somebody with a seat at the capital table, and they've got their ears to the market, and they're going to help with that next fundraise if we can execute successfully where we are today. And so they can be that translator and facilitator between us and the capital markets. I'm not trying to outsource the responsibility of doing that, but what I'm looking for is a partnership with kind of one of them, but who's on our side.
Got it. We're up against time. I'm just going to ask one thing you didn't mention, and that is how much you're raising right now.
We're raising $250,000. That $250,000 will get us through 12 months. It will bring us to EBITDA positive and cash flow positive, and set us up to then reload with those investors for growth capital only.
Awesome. Jared, thanks so much, man. I'm going to bump you down into being along with the masses, and I'm going to bring in Hector with Tia Lupita. All right.
Hi, guys.
Everyone meet Hector from Tia Lupita. And I'm gonna hit the start button right now, and you're on.
Let me do the setup first.
No setup time, man. Clock's ticking. No, I'll give you a second. All right, you ready?
Ready.
Go.
Hi, my name is Hector Saldivar, and I'm the founder and CEO of Tia Lupita Foods. But before I begin, I have a confession to make. I am Mexican. I may not look Mexican, but I am. I even have to convince other Mexicans that I am Mexican. So we come in different shape, color, and sizes. And when I moved 15 years ago here to the United States, I noticed that Mexican brands offered here were not. They all had a cookie cutter approach to offer mild tasting Mexican food, filled with artificial ingredients, binders, and fillers. They were not innovating, and their authenticity had been completely diluted over the years. Enter Tia Lupita Foods. With our list of clean, simple ingredients, innovative products, and authentic family recipes, our mission is to build a bridge to better for you, healthier Mexican food products. Now, every story has a beginning. My story begins with a family recipe for hot sauce that had been passed down to a single family member from generation to generations. You see, a huge percentage of Mexico's population is middle or lower class. So we don't inherit houses, jewelry, or cars. What gets passed down to us is our family recipes. Those are our prized family heirlooms. And it was thanks to my mom's shipments of her family recipe hot sauce that I realized there was a big white space that needed to be addressed. There is a need for better for you, healthy, authentic Mexican food products. The Hispanic food and beverage market size in the US is over $60 billion. And over 30% of new generations are Hispanic. We're paying attention to what we eat. We're paying attention if it's healthy and sustainable. Our line of hot sauces are made with clean, simple ingredients that you can taste and pronounce. We source our ingredients locally. We're non-GMO, gluten-free. We have no added sugar and very little salt. We continue to validate that the hot sauce subcategory is on fire, no pun intended. Hot sauces are now the #1 condiments in America, even outselling ketchup. Our hot sauce is the second fastest growing in the natural enhanced channel, and top 15 brand out of over 400 brands. We developed a line of cactus tortillas and tortilla chips that started to hit stores late in 2019. Whole Foods has been a big supporter for us. But why cactus? Nopales is the food of the future, but don't take my word for it. There are many articles that have been published to educate us about the nutrient-dense properties of nopales. They have the same superfood properties as kale, moringa, goji berries, or kelp. But not only that, they're the most sustainable plant in the world. Nopales grow in the desert, so they need very little water to grow, and they have 2 crop cycles per year. Tia Lupita is the first brand in the United States to introduce nopales as an alternative functional ingredient. Our line of cactus tortilla chips are 100% plant-based and grain-free. All 5 offerings have 4 grams of fiber per serving. They're light, crisp, and pack some flavorful heat. They are truly delicious. Our line of cactus tortillas are the #1 best-selling hot new product at Amazon's flatbread category. We've held that position since we launched them in April. We're low calorie and low carb compared to other corn tortillas out there. But wait, there's more. We have developed our grain-free cactus tortilla with the help of our friends at Renewal Mills. We are also lowering calorie and carbs than a regular grain-free tortilla. And we are the first tortilla to use okara. What is okara? Well, I'm glad you asked. Okara is a by-waste product of tofu and soy milk. It's upcycled and processed into an alternative flour that is nutrient-dense, packed with fiber and protein. Tia Lupita is now a member of the Upcycle Food Association, and we are committed to keep using sustainable food ingredients like nopales and okara to help reduce the overall food supply chain carbon footprint. And we need to keep that commitment as we continue to double our growth year over year. We are on trend and the market is coming to us. We are looking for investors to participate in what we're affectionately calling our Apocalypse Seed Round. These funds will allow us to continue fueling our growth and strengthen our position as we strive to become the most healthy, flavorful, and authentic Mexican food brand in the United States. We are a team of young, diverse, passionate professionals, and combined, we have over 60 years of CPG experience. Now, I know we're living in crazy, difficult times right now. Aside from a global pandemic, we're also struggling with divisive rhetoric, profiling, and building walls. I like to say that my mom built a bridge to me by sending me her hot sauce. Let Tia Lupita Foods build a bridge for better for you, healthy Mexican food products. Thanks.
Nice job, Hector. And pretty much right on time too, so thank you. So we'll do the drill and we'll start with the Didi and her question.
Same question, Hector. What have you done during this time of uncertainty to make your business more nimble, capital efficient, and resilient?
First thing we did, we freaked out. And then we cooled off. No, we definitely, when everything started to crumble, we took a dive into our financial spreadsheets, started to review what were our burn rates and what we needed to cut, negotiate just in order to survive. You know, we negotiated new terms with suppliers and some of our service providers, but also most importantly, it helped us pivot a little bit and focus our attention in what was happening online, right? So we definitely we focused our attention in building a website that was e-commerce friendly. Our original website was, you know, WordPress, very beautiful, big images and all that, but was not very intuitive for selling and didn't give us the report. So we did that, and we also hired a agency to help us increase our presence at Amazon. So that definitely has been one of the most you know, impactful things that we've done, as we are now seeing that our online sales are going to represent close to 18% of our business this year.
And Chuck, you have a question, your question to ask?
Yeah, it's same question, but you know, for example, cactus tortillas, and I think I also heard you say cactus tortilla chips, sound really interesting to me. It would be easy if I were in a grocery store and you were demoing to try them, since I have no idea what they taste like. How do you plan to drive discovery and trial in the current environment?
Yeah, that is a great question, and that I ask that a lot to other people, right? try to get some answers. You know, obviously, you know, brick and mortar, we're still focusing there. The challenging is sampling and giving it. So I think for us, it's going to be social media and partnering with other brands and to maybe create some giveaways, social and online promotions, partner with bloggers, influencers to help us, you know, elevate what Cactus does and help educate consumers out there. This is, like you said, you were totally right. This is something that needs a little bit of education. Cactus on itself can be a little bit polarizing. So we're doing it, we're introducing it here in the market in an approachable way, right? With tortillas and tortilla chips, blending it with other flours so that people can start trying it and start learning about the properties.
And I asked this question before, but you're asking, for capital and you need it for growth. But what is it that you need beyond capital from those investors? What support are you looking for?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely. And Jared said it very eloquently. He uses very fancy words. I talk like a 5-year-old. I'm translating everything in my head. But primarily, we're looking for someone that can open doors for us, point us in the right direction, but also mentor us. Someone that has the experience in consumer packaged goods and could help us educate on what's right and what's wrong. I'm a first-time entrepreneur, and I by all means do not have all the answers. So it would be fantastic not only to partner with someone that could provide the funds, but also, hey, be a sounding board for us as well.
Great. Well, Hector, thanks for doing this. Thanks for being one of the bold guinea pigs to come up here and go full kimono. So
It was brutal.
Yeah, I know. I could feel the pain. I'm going to dump you now, which is something I always enjoy doing. And I'm going to bring in Smari.
Hello.
He's taking a swig of his coffee.
All right, let me share my screen.
Let me hit the timer. And you are good to go.
Awesome. Thanks, Elliot. Hi, everybody. I'm Smari, and I'm the founder and CEO of Smart Organics and the creator of Coffee. And I'm thrilled to be here in the company of these other amazing entrepreneurs presenting today. And I'm excited to tell you more about our company, about Coffee, about our fundraising on WeFunder, and about our potential journey together. And I'll keep this brief. I only have 5 minutes. It's a good thing I talk fast. Now, you may think this presentation is about investment, but in reality, it's about bravery. It takes bravery to start a company like ours, to launch a product like Coffee, and it takes bravery for you to invest in our future. And we are here to solve a problem. The problem that I identified is that we all need more energy, but the solutions that are out there taste terrible, to put it bluntly. Also, just as bad, within energy drinks in the marketplace is just not good for your body. And I set out to change that. Because quite frankly, you can't be brave without having energy. And this is Coffee. You probably all know that Red Bull gives you wings. Coffee restores bravery. We all need more bravery every single day. You need bravery to nail that job interview, to ask somebody out on a date, to be the best parent you can be. These days, you sometimes need bravery just to get out of bed. Not only does Coffee restore bravery, but it's also the best tasting functional drink on the market by far. We have 3 SKUs. The first one on the left is our Keto Latte. We sweeten it with just a touch of monk fruit. With flavor-wise, this is just like a latte you would get at your favorite coffee shop. There's only 1 gram of sugar, 2 grams net carbs, both incredibly low numbers, 10 grams of protein, and 150 milligrams of caffeine, which is just a touch less than 2 cups of coffee. Then, the middle one is our nuanced coffee, slightly sweetened and flavored with chicory root. And finally, my favorite on the right, iced mocha, with an amazing chocolate flavor. Both the iced mocha and nuanced coffee are sweetened with cane sugar, but still only have 8 grams of sugar. All 3 have 10 grams of protein. So my solution was to design an energy drink that tastes amazing, that consists of simple ingredients and gives you sustained energy while also feeding your mind and your body in a positive way. Coffee's energy system was designed in such a way that you get an immediate kick from the caffeine, and then the protein sustains you longer and prevents any kind of jitters as the caffeine wears off. The net result is that we enable you to be the bravest version of yourself. What's just as important is the positioning we're taking with our branding, which is summed up in a tagline, Coffee restores bravery. It's a very positive approach to our messaging that doesn't tie us down to a narrow demographic. The product is a vehicle for our platform to do good with our message of bravery. We're in the crosshairs of a couple of fast-growing categories, mainly ready-to-drink coffee and functional drinks. 72% of Americans drink coffee, and 43% of them drink it daily. More than half of millennials drink cold coffee. The ready-to-drink coffee category has been growing at a CAGR of more than 18% since 2016, and it shows no signs of slowing down. The functional drink category has been showing significant growth as well. We launched coffee in the middle of 2019. Retailers recognized very quickly how innovative coffee is, and both Sprouts and Kroger invited us to participate in their innovation programs. We have gained quite a bit of distribution in just a few months. With the latest environmental challenges, we've put increased focus on e-commerce and Amazon, both of which can be a challenge for a refrigerated product. We were able to identify a path for shipping coffee at a sustainable cost, and I'm incredibly excited that we are launching on Amazon in about 2 to 3 weeks and direct e-commerce a little bit later. I think that will have the ability to catapult our sales this year. In terms of our overall numbers, we finished last year with net revenue just shy of 400,000. We expect to roughly double year over year for the next 3 years. We feel with our imminent direct-to-consumer and Amazon launch, we can achieve these numbers in spite of what's happening at retail right now. So our aim is to be capital efficient with our approach. We're fundraising via vfunder.com. vFunder is a crowdfunding platform that enables everyone to invest. Minimum investment starts at only $250, and it takes less than 5 minutes to invest. This essentially democratizes fundraising, and we are currently raising up to a $1.5 million convertible note. Terms are $4.5 million cap, 20% discount, and there's an early bird incentive. We may raise another price round in the next 12 months or so, depending on kind of where COVID takes us. Why to invest? We make a product that's incredibly delicious and is built around a smart energy system that we can easily apply to plant-based drinks. Category is on fire. I'm a seasoned, passionate entrepreneur. I've done it before, and I know what it takes to grow the company. Retailers are very interested, and we have a brand that's perfect for social and e-commerce. Our bottles essentially sell themselves. The segment is, quite frankly, one of the best in terms of multiplies and exits. And that's it. Thank you.
Nice job, Smari. So I'm gonna just to throw a little loophole in, I'm gonna switch up the order and let Chuck go first with his question this time, just to catch you off guard.
Oh, wow. All right.
I'm a rebel.
Nice work. And congrats on the expanded distribution. But as you know, getting on shelf is only half the battle. You need to get off shelf, right? Consumers need to buy your product. So how are you planning to support the increase in distribution by driving trial and discovery? Where and how?
We have, since COVID started, at the start of COVID, retail sales, plummeted. And so we essentially pivoted the business, and we're going solely online, e-commerce and Amazon. And we're going to focus on distribution retail stores in Northern California, which is, I'm in Petaluma, just north of San Francisco. So we essentially are going as capital, and this is kind of answering, I think, both questions. We're going as capital efficient as we possibly can by changing our model and by pivoting.
So I do think you answered both questions, which is fine. We can use the extra time. So I'll just add the one other, which is, since you're raising on WeFunder, which is a different approach, what are you hoping to get beyond just the capital on that platform? So, because we've asked the other two thus far about what support they're hoping to get from more traditional investors through traditional investment vehicles, but why WeFunder, and what support are you looking for from them and from that type of funding mechanism?
Yeah, so I think it's an interesting question. It's something I thought about a lot, and kind of traditionally, you're raising from accredited investors, and you get 2, 3, 4 individuals or groups of people, and they can provide a lot of support. Maybe somebody's done it before, or they're going to be kind of closely working with you. With WeFunder, currently we have 50 or 60 people that invest in us, and they're all much lower amounts. But now what I have essentially a horde of Vikings. They all have a stake in the company, and they are kind of our ambassadors. And it's in their best interest also to help promote us and kind of spread the word. So as we continue with that, that group of people is going to grow even more. And so I think we're getting a community. We're getting funds, but we're also getting a larger community as a part of that. And And so now my challenge is like, how can I be smart about engaging them and utilizing them for more than just for the money that they bring in.
Great. Well, Smari, thank you. We'll let you unshare your screen, and then we'll take you down with the other masses, and we'll bring in Emily and Cole from Slice of Sauce. All right, guys, bring us home. You're it. Then we get to sit around and talk about you guys. That's the fun part.
Amazing. It looks like somebody's got to break up this fierce facial hair competition, so I guess I'll be the one to do that.
There you go.
I'm Emily Williams. I'm CEO and co-founder of Slice of Sauce.
I'm Cole Williams, co-founder of Slice of Sauce and Emily's husband.
When I was a child, my father owned a restaurant, and he was famous for his barbecue sauce. And a couple decades later, he had no longer owned the restaurant, and I was trying to resurrect the sauce. And I was going to sell it at the farmer's market in my neighborhood. And the recipe called for a bunch of veggies, you braise them, and then you throw them in the trash. And I thought there's got to be a creative way to repurpose them. So I thought I was going to create a spice rub, sell it alongside the bottle. And I ground the ingredients up, I put them in the dehydrator, and what came out instead of a spice rub was a sheet of barbecue sauce. And I was just about to throw the thing in the trash, and Cole walked in the door, and he actually used to be a chef. So he said,
well, I actually saved the day is what really happened. I said, no, don't throw it away just yet. Like, let's taste it. You always have to taste, even if you mess it up. And what we realized was that it was amazing. The flavor was incredibly high impact and concentrated. So we decided to have a tasting party, and we invited a group of friends over for burger night, and we put our slices of barbecue sauce on the burgers. And immediately we started to get these sound bites that were echoing our value proposition, which were, it's the perfect bite every time. And it's this mess-free convenience. And it really is big, bold flavor that consumers are looking for when they put a sauce or a condiment onto their burger. So we right away, we're like, we've got something here, and it's shelf stable, it's vegan, it's gluten-free, it's got the best ingredients, so no preservatives, high fructose corn syrups, and it's non-GMO.
So from there, we set out to get some consumer validation and some feedback. And we launched on Kickstarter to do that. So we doubled our goal on Kickstarter, but also what came out of that campaign was this viral media response. So we were written up in Time Magazine, Food Network Magazine, the New York Post did a print, and above and beyond that, we had requests for distribution really all over the globe. And so we knew we had a good idea, but now we knew we had a really big idea. So we set out for the next phase.
When we're talking about how to fulfill any of those sort of distribution requests, we start talking about our omni-channel approach to this $22.5 billion condiment category. We know that there are about 300 million sandwiches eaten in the US every day, and all of them use condiments of some sort. So to start, we're really focusing heavily on e-commerce, as we've seen so many people move to e-commerce during this sort of pandemic and post-pandemic world. So we're really well positioned to sell through our website, through Amazon, Thrive, even Walmart.com. It's lightweight, small footprint, and shelf stable.
Simultaneously, we're also going to tackle some regional retail and then alternative channels to find our picnickers, our tailgaters, and outdoor gatherings, which are going to spike more than ever in this post-COVID world. In larger volume applications, we see this really solving problems at airports and stadiums, hospitals, schools, and just generally food service. Where, you know, in this post-COVID world, we're not going to see bottles or self-serve condiment stations, and this really can solve that problem. So we're talking about clean condiments in two ways. One, we have a clean label, but really this is sanitary and truly clean.
Emily mentioned, things like stadiums. We actually have the opportunity to put edible logos on our slices, so you could have your very favorite team on your sandwich and your jersey. But we also been approached by very large brands to do licensing deals and partnerships, so we can really lean into these established brands, as we're a new brand, into their equity and tap into their tribes. The endless flavor possibilities are pesto, Korean barbecue, teriyaki, and much more. So it's not just this sort of slice of ketchup or novel idea, but it's really flavor in a new form.
Our retail price is $5.99 for a pack of 8 slices, but we're working right now on single serve applications for 75 cents. We'll launch with ketchup and sriracha, but honey mustard and the Kansas City barbecue will soon follow. Our margins are about 33% fully loaded and burdened with trade and freight, but those are going to climb pretty substantially with some automation and customized equipment. Our in-store placement really focuses on bakery deli, where we know impulse purchases and velocities are going to be higher.
We've spent the last 2 years really building out the infrastructure of the brand slice of sauce, focusing heavily on, you know, how our package can educate the consumer as to what this product is. We also had the opportunity to participate in Techstars Austin 2019 cohort. We were finalists at Naturally Austin's inaugural Pitch Slam, and we were nominated at the World Food Innovation Awards last year. Over the past 2 years, we've had the chance to sample to about 4,000 people. And from that, we've really learned what the consumer likes and doesn't like. So we've been able to refine and pivot the product to perfectly position for our launch.
So today we're raising $500,000 on a convertible note, and that's going to push us through our launch and give us 12 months runway. The use of funds includes an emphasis on digital marketing, 3 to 5 second videos on how to and consumer education, as well as some customized equipment, which will give us some technical installation and proprietary know-how, and then also the remainder will be spent on operations. So that's Slice. Welcome to the Slice Age.
Welcome to the Slice Age.
Great job, guys. Yeah, if my wife and I tried to pitch together, that would be ugly. Wouldn't work. And that's after.
Hopefully she would do all the talking.
Of course, that's after 30 years of marriage. So Aditi, I'm going to let you go first this time and ask your question. And this is unique because these guys, for all intents and purposes, are pre-rev. So it's an interesting twist on this question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess just talk to us a little bit about COVID. What have you done to plan for uncertainty, and how has the business become more nimble, or how do you plan to make it more nimble and more capital efficient and more resilient?
We've looked at this really in 2 ways. One is what can we do today, which is on kind of a financial front. We're already a very lean team, but we cut every last penny that was not necessary. We took advantage of programs like PPP and other grants, and really trying to be as resourceful as possible in the moment. But then it also gave us an opportunity to look at the product and say, how does this solve a problem going forward? And so it's our single serve solutions, and our path to food service may be shorter than we thought it was, and our path to profitability. So it gave us, I think, actually some time to really plan and be more strategic going forward with our go-to-market strategy.
Great. Chuck?
Yeah, so you guys, you mentioned it, you're a brand new format, right, for delivering flavors that people are more or less accustomed to. So how do you plan, and where do you plan on driving discovery and trial so folks can taste your product? Because I've had it and it's great.
We're just going to show up at people's houses and start making them burgers and grilled cheese sandwiches. I mean, that's a good idea, right? No, I'm just kidding. You know, e-commerce is everything right now, and social media is clearly an incredible tool. Because of the viral nature of our Kickstarter campaign, we have a really amazing media list. So we can tap into that to help sort of, you know, get the word out there. But also things like the licensing and the partnerships, even with local brands that also meet consumers in the same sort of space that we do, whether it's tailgating or camping, RV crowd. So doing like little giveaways. And then lastly, as Emily said, you know, the single serve slice is great because we can give them away on our website as long as consumers, you know, pay for the shipping and include a recipe card. And then Emily also mentioned, you know, through our social media, really putting together these like video content is everything. Nobody wants to read anything anymore. Our attention spans are too short. So these 3 to 5 second, you know, either GIFs or videos, or TikTok, to really show like why the Slice Age is the best age to live in.
And in our last quick minute before we get to talk about all of you behind your backs, what support do you hope to get from these earlier investors beyond just the capital?
Yeah, we're looking for a really diverse cap table because our channel strategy is so diverse. So we're really hoping for people with deep networks within food service, and also working with digitally first brands, and then also someone on the retail side. But really, we have to come at this from a true omni-channel approach, and we're hoping our cap table looks the same. I think above and beyond anything, we're looking for a mindset, and we're trailblazers, and we're not afraid to be a little irreverent, a little bold, and be the first to do something. So we're looking for investors that also share that mentality more than anything else.
Great. Well, thank you. I'll let you go ahead and take your screen share off, and then I'll bring you back into the audience. And
Thanks,
thanks so
guys.
much, Emily and Cole. All right, now the fun. But in all seriousness, before we start, I just want to call out all four and say it takes a lot of courage to do what they just did, to get up there in front of their peers and pitch and know that what's coming next is this conversation that we're going to have about what we saw and so forth. So I just wanted to call that out. And everything that we give here is meant to be not only constructive to the four founders who pitched today, but to all the founders who are listening today or will be listening on the podcast, and hopefully use what we discuss here in ways to reshape how you speak to and present to investors. So let's start with Jared at Lillaby and just get some thoughts. And I'll start with you, Aditi, about the pitch. What did you like? What did you feel maybe was missing? And any tips for Jared in general?
Sure. So I thought that Jared did a great job talking about the market and how big it is. It was pretty clear to me that this is a big opportunity and that he's going after this healthful, indulgence, grain-free, dairy-free world. I think that, why Lillaby is what he started with. He asked us that question. I think that there could have been a little bit more there. I also would have loved to hear not just about why Lillaby, but why you, why him? Why is he the right person to build this brand and to grow this brand? So, and the last thing I'll say is that at times it sounded like Jared was reading off of a script, and I don't know if he was or wasn't, but it made it feel like just a little bit less like a conversation.
A little
but
more
those
robotic.
are some initial, a little bit more robotic. And I would have loved to see a little bit more charisma and just freeness.
Yeah, and I think one of the challenges, and I'll give him props too, his slides malfunctioned right before he came on, so he was having to kind of pivot a bit. But I agree. Chuck, your thoughts on Jared's pitch and presentation. And by the way, I caught you doing yoga a few times during, so I mean, I thought that was great. It's good.
You taught it to me. So I would say if I had to summarize the presentation, the Q&A, and I'd like to get into specifics, I thought his Q&A answers were perhaps among the best, if not the best, giving me specificity and direct answers and so on. The presentation itself, and it may have been because of the slides, like you said, I thought was a little weaker, on the weaker end of what we saw, and let me tell you why. I think we spent, I think it needs to be said, but I think we spent way too much time on the comparison of the digital versus retail channels as a whole, and not so much with respect to his business solely. And I know Lillaby and like it and eat it, and so I'm familiar with the product. But if I wasn't familiar with the product, I don't think from that presentation I would have gotten a great idea of what the product is, who the target consumer is, why they're going to buy it, what the product costs, and especially if you're comparing it to Oreos, why someone's going to pay a premium. And I think he did hit the better for you angle, but I would have liked to hear a lot more about the product. What I really loved is how much he focused on being scrappy, because my experience right now, speaking about angels, not about venture funds, which are different, is that a lot of the angels we work with are super focused on whether businesses are going to be able to be scrappy and how long can you exist and grow with my money. And so knowing they could go to 12 months and cash flow and EBITDA positive, or at least they have a path to it, I thought was really important to put in there. And lastly, I would have liked a little more data around how they've sold and how they plan to be selling, meaning net revenue numbers, velocity numbers, et cetera. I thought the other presentations, for the most part, gave us a little bit more data.
Yeah, and I would agree. And I've had the benefit of seeing Jared pitch a couple times, and I thought, again, he's very articulate. It's a great pitch, and I love the fact that he's a contrarian. That he saw this before that many others, and he was out at retail doing the normal grind, and then suddenly sat up and said, "What the hell? Why am I doing this? It's so inefficient. I'm not going to win. I'm going to think differently. I'm going to go small, and I'm just going to go all into digital and build my brand and then use retail to curate." I thought that was great. I think he didn't make that case quite as powerfully as I've heard him make it before. And I think that was partly because he didn't lean into the data as much. And I do think, part of it too was the slides, but I also really liked the way he answered the questions very specifically and very thoughtfully. And, a key one just in general is that when someone asks you, when an investor says, "What do you need from me beyond just the money?" Having a real concrete answer is important, because, Aditi can speak to this, but most investors want to know that they can play a role in de-risking the investment. That's the value that they add to their portfolio companies, their knowledge, their connections, their core competencies. So let's jump to the next one really quick and talk about Hector Tia Lupita, and I'll start this time with you, Chuck.
Sure. Yeah. It's small, but one of the things that left me with the biggest, I'm not sure I get the goal here, was the focus on upcycling and Okara that was thrown in there. Because until then, what I had learned from Hector was, and by the way, it was a great presentation. And actually, I very much he did a great job of being product forward. So I very much want to trial these products after seeing it. But if we're talking about upcycling Okara, and the entire rest of the presentation was around a merge of authenticity and better for you ingredients, I don't quite understand how Okara fits in there. Now, I'm not an expert on Okara, so maybe it is an authentic ingredient to Mexican foods. But if it's not, then I think what we're effectively saying, if we're Tia Lupita, is we value better for you ingredients more than we value authenticity, right? And that was a slight concern I left with. I absolutely loved the focus on nopales and the cactus tortilla chips, cactus tortillas. I think it's awesome because when he started the presentation, I thought, what platform are you going to build from hot sauce, right? What's next? And he hit it without me having to ask it. So I love the presentation. When it came to the Q&A section, I thought it was a little bit weaker. I didn't think we got as precise and measurable an answer as I would have liked, and as Jared, for example, gave around how they were going to be more capital efficient. I thought he did give a better answer when it came to driving trial, because a lot of folks just said social media, but social media is exceptionally broad, and I need way more specifics about how you plan to utilize social media to drive discovery and trial. And I thought at least he was specific around using people to educate around consuming cactus, because it's going to be important.
Great. Aditi.
Yeah, I do agree with a lot of things that Chuck has said, and I wrote down the same.
You should never admit that publicly, by the way. It never turns out well.
Exactly. I did write down the same point on upcycling. Does this get consumers to buy more Tia Lupita? And I'm not sure what the answer is. The other things that I wanted to mention were that I loved Hector's story. I thought that he did a really great job of incorporating why he's the right person to build this brand and take it big. I thought that was really, really nice. And I feel like he's done that in almost every presentation I've seen or any manifestation of the brand. For me, the thing that was missing was a little bit more detail and depth into why they can be different from someone like Siete. They always come to mind. I want to understand why consumers are going to not just try you, but keep coming back to you with something like, and almost like a elephant in the space. I would have wanted to address that. And if we continued conversation, I would ask him head on, hey, tell me why are you different, and why will you continue to be different?
Great. My comments are, one of the things I love, I mean, the hot sauces are honestly fantastic. I'm a user, but I thought it was very smart as you begin to, one of the big risks when you start to become a platform is how do you support it? And I thought one of the things that was smart in his presentation and smart in that go-to-market is that the flavors of the chips are the flavors of the hot sauces. So he incorporated the people who love the hot sauces right with the flavors of the chips. I thought that was well done. And I think his story is compelling, and he does a good job. And I think, moving from adding a grain-free tortilla is really the message that happens to use the upcycle ingredient. I get that. I think, sometimes though, you're winding up messaging now on so many things. You're messaging on upcycled ingredients, you're messaging on no polish, you're messaging on heritage and all of those. And so in his hierarchy of message, he's going to need to clean it down. I thought, he struggled on the first question. I think he just kind of lost his place, but overall, again, bias. I know all these guys, but I thought he did a nice job. So let's go now to Smari. Different approach. So Smari, has been raising money the more traditional way. He's gone to WeFunder where he feels he can activate a tribe, and so he's appealing slightly different in his pitch to maybe a less sophisticated investor, right? A more impassioned or emotive investor instead of a more clinical / cynical investor. So Aditi, thoughts on Smari's presentation?
Yeah. Hey, I thought that you did a really nice job. I thought the presentation was beautifully done and simple, easy to understand. I liked that you were building the brand around the whole concept of bravery. I think that's smart. And it ties into the heritage of Icelandic products really, really nicely. I think this one, from a traditional investor's point of view, is a little bit, I think that it's left of center for us. So when I see companies like this, I always wonder to myself, how are they going to do this in a pretty competitive market that needs a lot of capital? So I left wondering, whether WeFunder is the right way to do this. And, if so, where is that capital going to go? How are you going to execute? Because beverage is tough. Coffee is tough. And I left wanting to hear more on those topics.
Great. Chuck?
She nailed it. I should just proxy my time to her. I wrote down bottled beverages take a lot of coffee and a lot of capital. And there are lots of coffees with functional or better for you ingredients and protein. And I didn't leave with a why you. And at a time where capital efficiency is key, I didn't think we got a great answer there. And this is going to be a far more capital intensive business than the others. Did really love that he gave us net revenue numbers. I felt like I walked away with a better grasp of where the company's been, where it's going. And while I am not personally a huge fan of crowdfunding, I think he gave the perfect answer when it came to what's the value of crowdfunding with respect to what those investors can bring. And maybe because it's the only good answer, but it is, I've now got a horde of Vikings out there proselytizing my product. Great answer. He's at least thought about it. I didn't get any margin or profitability information, which again, for a category like this, I'd like to know where he's going to land because I think it's going to take a lot of money.
Yeah. And of course, I mean, some of the stuff we coach, them not to disclose things that of course, that they'd be uncomfortable being widely public, because once it got out that Chuck was on this, we knew this thing was going to go viral. So we wanted to keep it kind of close. But Smart and I've talked about this. I still think the thing that he needs to continue to focus on is the why coffee. Why? What our reason for being? Why would this get picked up over anybody else's? He did talk about his kind of pivot and strategy in recognition, I thought, of that this is a very capital consuming category, and he believes he's figured out a pathway to really leverage into this e-commerce growth in beverage using network design and so forth. So that's going to be a really interesting experiment that I would like to say, like to have him put some milestones out in terms of what that success looks like with the launch on Amazon and the D2C. And I get the WeFunder. I think it does build a tribe. I think also we have to recognize that in this post-COVID world, that funding gap between seed and funds have grown. So there's a lot of brands that are in the middle, and there aren't necessarily, when you're sub $1 million in revenue and you're needing to raise money, there aren't as many funding mechanisms out there. So and there's been some progress made around equity crowdfunding in terms of cap table cleanliness and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to, I think he, to me, represents an experiment that's going to be very interesting to watch and witness and see if he can leverage WeFunder and leverage this e-commerce, D2C on beverage and grow. And certainly I'm rooting for him, and the product is great. So, all right.
Elliot,
yeah.
Just contextually for everyone watching, but also for the folks who pitched, they only had 5 minutes plus a little bit of Q&A. I don't know that I've ever seen a pitch that short where I didn't have a whole lot of questions and concerns afterwards. Yeah. So I want to make sure that everyone knows that. I mean, it's impossible to cover all this stuff.
Well, and truthfully, I'm just going to say that just really quickly, just use that as a follow-on. That's what, in any good pitch, you want that. Listen, if you leave an investor with no questions, there's no reason for another conversation. So the whole goal in a pitch is to, it's like writing a good song. You want a hook, and you want them to come out going, there's things interesting that I want to find out. I want to sit down and have another conversation. So, all right, well, just to be quick, and we'll end with Emily and Cole and slice of sauce, and I'll go with you first, Chuck.
Sure. So Aditi led with this point. I'd like to, I'm talking about it here with them, but I'd written it down as a meta point for everyone, which is a pitch is not just about delivering data. A pitch is an opportunity to build a connection. It's not because we're in a better for you industry and I live in Boulder and therefore I'm a hippie. There actually is value to understanding that there are a lot of soft factors involved. And even professional investors, if they feel like they have built a connection with you because you've been able to be personable, friendly, relaxed, warm, open, they are going to be more likely to look at everything else you say favorably. And I would say among the 4 pitches, I thought they did that the best, just, creating that connection through the pitch. I like the succinct origin story. I'm personally concerned around the combination of delivering a new format and then also the pricing. I look at it, it's $5.99 for 8 slices. If you compare that to sauces, I think it's probably significantly more expensive per serving. I'd like to actually see that data from them, and also less flexible in use. For example, a bottle of ketchup, I can use it for a hamburger, but I can also use it for tater tots, right? And so I'd love to hear them address that too. And then, they said they're going to raise 500 in their pre-revenue. I would have loved to heard what's it going to be used for and how long is it going to last? Because again, scrappiness is key in the current market.
Great. All good feedback. Aditi, anything to add there?
Again, I agree with a lot of what Chuck has said. I think that the only other thing that I would love to hear is a little bit more on the food service side and the opportunity to get this on every sandwich in America. I think that there's an opportunity there that they could have expanded on. And I don't know if that's a big part of the plan, but just more specifics on exactly what they're going to be doing to get from tailgaters and outdoor enthusiasts over to all the sandwiches that exist.
I think, my feeling is, first of all, great energy on the pitch. I saw that come through on one of the chats from Alex as well. And I thought they're dynamic. It was super smart to pitch together. And I thought that was great. And also, I think, their method of pitching is compelling. I think the biggest channel is, or the biggest challenge for them is going to be that they are going to have to figure out how to drive trial, because they're introducing a completely new form factor, and that is hard to do. And so, people are going to be skeptical. People are going to be wondering, why should I do this? And so, they're going to have to figure out where the best waypoint is to drive that discovery. So,
and Elliot, I think something I also try to figure out is whether they're going to be the right people to do that. And so that's the hardest question for me to answer sometimes. Like, I agree with that, how to drive trial, but I think that I got the vibe that they were going to figure it out.
The one thing we typically do here is use a little bit of time for Q&A from the group, and we're over time. But if the panelists can stay on a minute or two, and if anyone has any questions, we'll do our best. But quickly write them into the Q&A box down on the side, and we'll try to address them. Here's one from Joshua. Do the panelists have any suggestions about testing or tasting and sampling in the new world?
I can start. I think that there's a lot of ideas floating around, and new brands are doing different things. But I think that you have to meet customers where they're at. So single serve samples are important. Making sure that COVID doesn't get in the way of people getting just one single thing. So brands that I've seen that do a single sachet of their product or a mini size have had more luck sampling than big sizes. And also going to meet customers where they're at, doing it guerrilla style. Right now, there's nothing stopping you from going to where people are lining up and handing out single serve samples of your product to everybody in line. So I think that there's some creative thinking that could help what you're doing. But again, it's about trial and error. You gotta try 15 different things to get one that works.
Chuck, anything there?
Nothing to add to that. Giving your product to people for free, right? It was the way people did it in demos, and you can't do it in demos. So how can you do it where everyone's still figuring it out? I was a little concerned about the idea of sending a 75-cent slice because how much is going to cost to ship each one of them, and what's the efficiency? But I don't have any better ideas right now.
All right. Well, we don't have any other questions in the Q&A. We're a couple minutes over, so we'll wrap it up there. So I just want to thank again our founders, Jared from Littleby, Hector from Tia Lapita, Smari from Cafe, and of course, Cole and Emily from Slice of Sauce. So I will, when we circulate the podcast notes as well as the video, we'll leave contact information for each of the founders should anyone have any questions or want to follow up with them individually. And thank you, Aditi. Thank you, Chuck, for doing this, and hope it was enjoyable and helpful for everyone. So take care, all.
Thanks for inviting us.
Bye-bye.